Let's now talk about the theme of this year's annual meetings of the AfDB, which is on building resilient economies in post-COVID-19 Africa. Joining me now to discuss the issue of increasing debt portfolio of the continent whilst targeting resilient growth is Professor Kevin Urama, Senior Director, African Development Institute. Dr. Urama is also the Acting Chief Economist and Vice President in charge of Economic Governance and Knowledge Management at the AfDB. Thanks for coming through, sir. We appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.
Very important. Why did the bank choose to focus on building resilience in Africa at this time as the headline conversation for these annual meetings?
As you would agree with me, COVID-19 pandemic has really hit African economies very hard in very many ways, both in the social, the economic, and the environmental aspects. And that is why the African Development Bank has selected this year to focus on building resilient economies in post-COVID-19 Africa. There are three things that needs to be done in order to address Africa's recovery after COVID-19. The first one is access to vaccines, basically building health infrastructure to Africa to be able to produce its own vaccines and therapeutics. As you may know, that Africa has not really had access to vaccines. Only about 0.6% of Africa's adults are vaccinated, fully vaccinated to date. This is a far cry from the 60% that is required to achieve herd immunity and be able to bring people back to the economy to do more productive activities to grow the economies again. The second aspect is addressing the debt question, which you have pointed out. Sustainable resolution of Africa's debt is a major aspect that needs to be addressed because of the constricting fiscal space that COVID-19 has created because of the demand for resources to be able to address the challenges of COVID-19. And the third aspect is actually continuing Africa's already improving trajectory towards green growth transitions so that we can build more inclusive and more resilient economies. These three reasons are behind the selection of the three knowledge events that we have implementing during this annual meeting of this year. So as you know, we've done the one on debt yesterday, and today we've done the one on climate change, which you were actually airing part of it from Ban Ki-moon and others. So today I would like to talk to you some of the takeaways from the debt to growth event that we had yesterday. Thank you very much.
Yes, that first event you talk about debt resolution and growth. I'm sure we both know that we can hardly discuss resilience and recovery without talking about debts on the African continent. So why focus on this theme, and what were the takeaways or actionable points from what we heard yesterday from the IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva, the WTO Director General Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, as well as other panelists?
The reason for the focus on addressing debt is very obvious. Addressing debt in Africa pervades all aspects of the African economies. It goes from addressing the issues of domestic resource mobilization, to public expenditure management, budget planning and management, deepening financial markets, and also macro fiscal policy management, as well as improving transparency and accountability in governance systems of public finances and the use of public finances. You may know the GDP of Africa is expected to grow back after COVID-19 by 3.4% only. And this is lower than what we are seeing in other regions of the world. And also the global estimated average of 6% recovery in GDP around the world. This means that Africa risks the chance of being left behind. Other countries saw it forward with regard to achieving herd immunity and kickstarting economic development again. And that will create some problems in terms of Africa's access to resources to be able to grow the economies going forward. I've seen several other economic fundamentals in Africa also slower in its recovery pace than other regions of the world. If I talk about imports and exports, Africa's import and export is expected to grow back by 0.1% and 2.3% in 2022 compared to 2019. If you look at the same statistic for the Asian continent, it's actually 9% and 12.5%. And it's the same for other regions of the world that are growing back faster and much more resilient post-COVID-19. And this can create major problems for Africa going forward in terms of increased cost of debt, inflationary effects, and other issues that will the dwindling fiscal space on the continent will create much more problems of macroeconomic management going forward after COVID-19. Okay. So the reason for choosing debt is because if we are able to address the issues around debt sustainability management, we will need to be able to address issues around public finance management in general.
Professor Urama,
thank you.
Well, to resolve this debt issue for Africa, we surely need the help of the international community in addressing this challenge. So yesterday, the IMF Managing Director, Kristalina Georgieva, says, quote, in this pivotal moment, Africa can count on the IMF. Together, we can move mountains. Together, we can lay the groundwork for a more prosperous and peaceful future, which includes Africa. Are you seeing that this will go beyond the rhetoric and that we will see actionable actions on the ground sometime and anytime soon from the international community, such as the IMF and the World Bank and others?
Already, the international community is doing quite a lot in order to help Africa, help other low-income countries. You know that in terms of vaccine access, there is already pledges, and also we have the COVAX already, which is making a vaccine accessible to Africa. So far, it's still not enough, but we're grateful that is already happening. And more pledges is occurring now that countries have been able to make a headway in vaccinating their own populations. Also, we have very good improvements in terms of also the debt service suspension initiative, which is already helping some African countries to give them breathing room as the repayment of their debt has been suspended for some time. That will allow for time for countries to regroup and be able to invest a little bit more in the real economy. And already discussions are going on with regard to the possibilities of extending it even further beyond 2021.
Okay, so
this has already helped 31 countries in Africa.
Professor,
value of about 4.5 billion.
Professor Urama, I just want us to end this conversation around the AfDB itself. What role is the AfDB playing in making debt work for Africa?
The AfDB has played quite huge roles and will continue to play huge roles. You may have heard during the event that the bank has launched a debt action plan for Africa. It has also launched a strategy for economic governance in Africa. For debt to work in Africa, there needs to be bold governance reforms. And these strategies and action plans that the bank has launched is meant to help the bank to be able to support countries to build institutional capacity, to access lower cost loans, to be able to invest in its economy, and also do a lot of governance reforms that are required in order to be able to position Africa to do better debt transparency, and be able to invest more productive investments to make that work for Africa.
Well, Professor Kevin Urama, acting Chief Economist and Senior Director, African Development Institute at the AfDB, thank you very much. We wish you all the best at the AfDB annual meetings as you wrap things up tomorrow. We hope to hear more. Thank you very much.